Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
139.
It is, and we got to do something, Sherry. Before we jump into this week's podcast, I need to admit something.
Yeah, you do.
So, you guys, if you remember last week, we talked about it was our Getting Older podcast, and one of the things I talked about is that I know I'm getting older because I have a favorite sponge.
Yep.
Which led us to the conversation about our scrub daddy that we had.
Nope, we have the scrub mommy.
Okay, well, hold on. The difference apparently is that the scrub mommy, which is a weird name, has a bow.
I mean, so is the scrub daddy.
That's a good point. Has a bow. I was like, ours definitely doesn't have a bow.
I said ours definitely does.
I was like, there's no way.
And we got home and?
Well, hold on. Here's the thing. I was so certain that I was right. I would have bet you money on it.
You tried to bet me money, and I was like, nope.
And then we got home.
I don't need the money to know that I'm right.
I was completely and totally wrong. Like, I looked at it, and I was just like, damn it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How did I never notice a bow?
I don't know, but I did, and I knew it was there, and I was sure that it was there, and I knew that you were wrong, and you wouldn't believe me.
Frickin' A. I'm so mad. I hate being wrong. It happens more than I'd like, which is also annoying. All right, so on this week's episode, we're talking about all the ways that I'm wrong. No, not really.
No, not really.
Be a long podcast. But what we are going to talk about is actually a more serious topic.
Yeah.
Something happened on this trip. So here's the thing with podcast topics. Sometimes we sit down and we plan weeks ahead and we have ideas and we're like, oh, we'll do this on this date, this on that date. Sometimes life happens and we think, wait a second.
We should talk about this.
We should talk about this. This is the kind of thing that may be able to help other people.
Yeah.
Sherry Beth, I want you to take the lead on talking about, first of all, what we're talking about and then why we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, we are talking about anxiety. And we are talking about it because we went to a concert a couple days ago in Seattle. We went to see Dashboard Confessional, which is one of our favorite bands.
Yeah.
And I had an anxiety attack in the middle of the concert.
You did.
And thankfully, actually not during Dashboard. It was during their opener, Boys Like Girls, who I also love. And I just had to get out.
Why talk about this on a podcast?
I think anxiety is one of those things that probably a lot of people have, and they either don't realize it or they just try to like push through it, and which is honestly what I did for a long, long time. Both things. I didn't realize that was actually what my body was doing. Yeah. And when I did, I was just like, well, I'm just going to push through it. It's going to be fine. But what I have realized is that pushing through it makes it worse.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it's important to talk about. I think that mental health is something that growing up was never talked about. And I think that it's important to realize that I think everybody struggles with mental health in one form or another. And I think that it's just as important, if not more important, than physical health.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that your mental health actually affects your physical health. One
of the things I think this could be helpful for is kind of what I watched happen in the concert. And anxiety is not new for you.
No.
But it is still kind of new, like naming it, like having a name for it, understanding what it is.
Recognizing the signs and knowing what to do to stop it.
Exactly. So what we were going to do on this podcast is basically kind of walk you through what happened, what Sherry saw and recognized and felt, what I saw and recognized, and then kind of the steps we took to help in this situation. Now, before we get into this, as with all mental health things, we are not doctors. We are not professionals. Right. We simply are sharing our story. That being said, we 155 million% encourage you to talk to a medical professional about this kind of stuff, whether it's your counselor, your therapist, whatever it is, to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yes. And
I think one of the steps of talking about it is even doing this, because when things are kept in the darkness or when things are kept silent, stigmas grow around them.
Yep.
And here's the thing. In that concert, and we actually hadn't talked about this, in that concert, later in the concert, we watched at least two other people that I can think of have anxiety attacks and or panic attacks, and we'll talk about the difference there, in the concert.
Yes. And yeah, like I watched it happen and I saw them, like heard them scream again over the loudness of the concert. I need to get out of here. I need air. I need to get out.
Yep.
And I was like, yep, get it, girl.
Okay. So let's go back and kind of walk us through sort of what happened so that people have an idea of maybe what they would look for, kind of what happened to you.
All right. So, y'all know that I went and got well, maybe you don't if you didn't watch the blog,
That's
but
true.
in Seattle, I went and got a tattoo, another one on my wrist that says breathe. And it's kind of a reminder to breathe through my anxiety. I realized that when I start feeling anxious, I tend to stop breathing, which is not great. Because then I get really dizzy and it kind of exacerbates the anxiety because my body is like physically like, hey, we need air, we need air. And so it was just kind of a reminder to me to breathe.
It is, just a quick pause. It is sort of fascinating to me that this happened on the weekend of the trip that you got your tattoo that reminds you of what to do when anxiety hits.
Right. Yeah.
Because this, I think, was the biggest anxiety attack that I've seen you have.
I think it
maybe
really
in
was.
our marriage.
Yeah, I think it was.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry, go back ahead.
Yeah, so we got there a little bit into the first set of the first opener. Her name was Taylor Acorn. She was fantastic.
She was great.
And we kind of stood closer to the back initially. And then and it was basically standing room only. There were a few tables, but reserved. And so it was a venue that holds about 1,800 people, standing room. And so, just a big open warehouse, essentially.
Basically, yeah.
And so we were kind of standing in the back third of the venue. And then as the first opener finished, the second opener's Boys Like Girls came on, the venue got a little more crowded, more people came in, and we kind of kept taking steps forward and forward and forward, which meant we were more and more in the crowd and not kind of on the outskirts of the crowd where we kind of started out. And I we were probably 10 steps forward when I first started to feel like, I don't like this.
Okay.
I kind of just started to feel like I wasn't liking how crowded we were. It was loud in there. I mean, it's really just kind of a big warehouse. And you could feel the bass, you could feel the drums like in your body.
You already don't generally like loud noise.
I don't like noise and I don't like crowds.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit about that later, what it does to my body. But yeah, so I kind of felt myself getting a little more anxious, but I also just sort of, I knew going into the concert that it was going to be loud. There was, standing room, we knew that. And so I thought that I had sort of mentally prepared myself for that, and I could feel myself getting anxious, but I was also just like, it's going to be fine. Like, I'm fine. I'm here for this music that I love. It's going to be fine. Right. And so from the get-go, I was focusing on my breathing. There was one point where I was almost like pressed up against the back of the person in front of me, and I just kind of pushed back against Adam, who was right behind me, and I said, I need to not be touching this person. Like, I need the space around me. I need to not be shoulder to shoulder. And so we kind of took a step back a little bit. And that helped, but it was also just, it didn't help enough. Yeah. And so it just kind of kept getting worse. And so Boys Like Girls came on, and they're over to the right of us. I don't know if you kept seeing me look over there.
Yep.
There was kind of an open area. We were a little bit close to like the merch table, and at the end of the merch table, there was kind of an open area. There was people standing there, but it was a little bit more open, and one girl was actually sitting on the ground, like against the wall there. And I kind of kept looking over there thinking, maybe I just need to go over there. Like, there's less people. I mean, it was 5 steps to our right.
Yep.
And I was kind of looking over thinking maybe I just need to go over there. Maybe if I sat down for a minute, it's still going to be loud. There's still going to be people, but like not as many people. And maybe sitting would kind of help me a little bit. And so I kind of kept looking over there, and then I could feel my anxiety continuing to rise. And there's a point about halfway through Boys Like Girls where I was just like, nope, this isn't working for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned around and I yelled in Adam's ear, I need to get to the back. And my thought was, just get out of the middle of the crowd. And so we kind of got to the back, and I was still just like, nope. I need out. I need out of the noise. I need out of the crush of people. I just need out. And so I was like, nope, I'm going outside. And so I just took off. Mm-hmm. and Adam followed me. And there was kind of a little like fenced off area. We had to go through security to get into the venue, which was outside. The security was actually outside. And there was kind of a little fenced off area on this side of security. Mm-hmm. And I just immediately went over there and I sat down on the
on the concrete,
right on the disgusting sidewalk. And I was just like, it was fresh air. There was no people. You could still hear, like, that the doors open, mm-hmm. so you could still hear everything that was going on, but it wasn't as loud because we weren't in this echoey warehouse. And I sat down and I started to deep breaths.
Yep.
And almost immediately, I mean, within seconds, I felt like there was a staff person that came over, and he was like, "Are you okay? Can we get you anything?" And Adams just said, she's got a little bit of anxiety going on, and he was like, "That's fine. I can get you a chair. I can get you some water. Would that help?" And I was like, "Yep." So they, immediately brought out a chair for me to sit in, so I didn't have to sit on the gross sidewalk. And
yeah, I want to hit pause real quick, uh-huh. because I do want to just give a shout out too. So the venue was the Showbox Sodo in Seattle. I used to be a bouncer at a nightclub in my early 20s. I watched Roadhouse. It was a dream. Don't judge me. The way that their staff handled your situation was so perfect. Mm-hmm. It was with compassion and yep. kindness. They got you exactly what you needed. They kept checking in on you. Are you mm-hmm. okay? It was just, I was so unbelievably impressed with the way they handled that.
Me too.
So that just like, that's one thing. I mean, it was immediate. As soon as you sat down, that guy came over
yep.
and was just like, what do you need? How can I help?
Yeah. And it didn't feel like a burden. I didn't.
No, exactly.
I never felt like, ugh, all right, geez. Okay. Can we just get you a chair so you'll like not sue us? Like, I never felt like a burden. I never felt like, I really just felt compassionate. Like, they immediately got me a chair. They got me some water. Multiple staff, like not just the guy who initially like asked, mm-hmm. but he came back a couple of times. There were other staffers who were like, "How are you doing? Can we get you anything else?" It was so nice.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
It was so nice. Little aside, while we were sitting there, one of our best friends who lives near Seattle now, and I knew that she was going to be at this concert and was not really entirely sure how we were going to find each other. We had been texting, and I just said, text me when you get there and we'll figure it out. She walked up to security like a minute.
Right next to us.
Like a minute, right? Like when I got the chair, I was sitting in the chair and I was like, wait, there she is. And I was like, oh my God. So that was perfect. So we were able to kind of stand outside and chat with her where we could actually hear, which was great. So,
and I actually want to ask a question because I think that's a good segue into, mm-hmm. The things that you did. Mm-hmm. You went outside, got out of the crowd, fresh air, focused on breathing. Was the conversation with her a healthy distraction? 'Cause we talked to her for several minutes. Mm-hmm. Did that help get your mind off? Like, what were the things that you felt like did help?
It did. It helped because I could hear. It was, still kind of loud because we mm-hmm. were, right by the doors and the music was coming out. But we were able to have a conversation with her and not have to scream. And just being in the fresh air helped a lot. Not being in the crush of people helped a lot. So, yeah, it was kind of all of the things, like just being able to chat with her and then take deep breaths when I felt like I couldn't inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went back in.
So I did ask you before we went back in. I let Sherry know. I was like, hey, like I can take you home.
Yeah.
Like back to the Airbnb, we were a 9-minute drive away.
Yep.
I was like, we will go. I can come back and get Justin and Lacey. Like, you do not have to stay here. You don't have to keep doing this. Like, we can get you home where you can get in your pajamas and just like being quiet.
But there was a part of me that was like, that might be nice.
Yeah.
But I was there for Dashboard Confessional. Damn it.
That's exactly what you said.
That's what I said.
That's exactly what you said.
Like, that's literally why I'm here. That I wasn't here for Taylor Acorn. She was fantastic. I wasn't there for Boys Like Girls. I love them, but that's not why I was there. I was there for Dashboard, and I wanted to see them so bad. And I was just like, I am not going to let this anxiety ruin my night. I'm here for Dashboard, and I'm going to hear them.
Yeah. So after we were outside for quite a while, I mean, we were outside for more than a half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than a half an hour, just kind of breathing and just focusing. I was talking to a friend. Mm-hmm. Then you make the decision that it's like, okay, I want to go back inside.
Wanted to go back inside. So, but with stipulations.
Yep.
I wanted to stand at the very back,
mm-hmm.
right by the doors. And so there was like security that was kind of outside, and then you walked into the venue and they stamped our arms to, show that we had gone through security, and that we had tickets and whatever. So, I stood literally right next to that person.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a fence between them, like that person like stamping, and then the actual like standing venue. I stood right on the other side of the fence,
mm-hmm.
where I could still feel the air.
Was that helpful?
From outside, that was very helpful. It was a little bit chilly, but I was also just thinking I can't take 5 steps forward because then I don't know that I'll be able to feel the air. There's gonna be more people. I needed to be able to feel that air. So even though it was kind of cold and I felt bad because Lacey came and stood right next to me, and I was like, I know she's freezing too. And I was like, I'm so sorry. But I just needed to feel the air. I needed to be able to feel it. And then we weren't in the crush of people, because we were in the very back. There were still people around us,
mm-hmm.
Because the venue was full, but not nearly like what it was.
You still had like a bit of a personal bubble.
Yes, I was able to move around.
Yeah.
I was able to see space around me, which I think helped.
Yeah.
And I got earplugs.
Yeah, that was actually something we asked the
Mm-hmm.
people as we were going back in. It's like, hey, do you guys have earplugs? They're like, yep, go to Coat Jack. They've got them. And did the earplugs help?
The earplugs helped a lot.
We should have gotten you those from the very beginning.
We should have gotten them from the beginning. And I don't know that it would have helped because of the crush of people, but it definitely helped with the noise level. In fact, there was even a point like during Dashboard that I took the earplugs out because I was like, I don't know if it's muffling. Like, obviously I could still hear everything. The earplugs, they weren't like completely noise canceling. They were like those little rubbery ones that you just, form and put in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
So like the foam ones. And so, it didn't completely block out the noise, but it muffled it. And there was like during Dashboard, I was like, is it muffling it too much? Like, am I missing things? And so I took them out and I was like, nope, immediately back in. Like, it was so loud that even just taking them out for the 3 seconds, I was just like, my body started to tense again.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, putting it back in. And so I was able to hear everything with those earplugs, but it muffled it enough that my body wasn't on edge. But yeah, so that's kind of just what happened. And then we made it through all of Dashboard, and then because we were standing there at the back, we were able to get out of the venue fairly quickly.
Yep, you didn't get caught in that big push that happens at the end.
Right. And so it was great. Like the concert was fantastic, and I'm really glad that I was able to stick through it, and I listened to it all day today, like just Dashboard, because I really do love them, and it was so great to be able to see them in person. But I did realize that maybe concerts are not my thing anymore. Yeah,
so you were able to stick through it, I think largely because you recognized what was happening.
Yeah. And
then you knew tools to like help you.
Yes.
I think if you would have tried to stay in the middle of the crowd to just kind of like tough it out,
I actually think I would have passed out.
I think you would have too.
Yeah.
So my concern, I'll tell you a little bit what I saw. So when we started at the back, one of my thoughts whenever I go to a concert or a parade or anything with people with Sherry is I want to get her in a place to have the best view. I'm always thinking about the fact that, like,
Because I'm 5 feet tall.
you're super short, like
I'm super short. And so is Lacey.
Yeah,
I'm half a person.
you two together are basically a person. But like, I can see from anywhere, and so my thought was like, man, if we could get them to a good place where they could see, which did kind of tend to be closer and closer and closer. But then the closer you get, the more the crowd pushes.
Right.
So trying to get you like in a good place ended up being like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
What I noticed at first, because I was standing behind you, was I noticed you looking down. And here's the difference between you and I. When I'm at concerts, a lot of times I will close my eyes and look down and sort of just like take in and listen to the music. You don't do that.
No, when I'm looking down, it's because
You're focusing on something else, so you don't.
Something. Yeah. So one of the signs of anxiety is blackened vision, like black spots, or it's kind of on the edges of my vision. Like my vision starts to like close in, and I recognized that was happening. I was starting to kind of see black spots edge in, and I was just like, oh, geez. And so what makes it worse is looking around at things for me. And so I looked at my feet and focused on my feet, and tried to breathe and hold and then breathe out. I was literally holding my wrist. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
I was holding my wrist where it says breathe and making myself breathe, because I knew that if I didn't focus on my breathing, that I would stop
and you were going to pass out.
Breathing, and I was going to pass out.
So that was my concern. I saw you looking down and I saw you holding your wrist, and I knew something was off.
Yeah.
And so that's when kind of like put my hand on your shoulder, checked on you, and you were just like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I need to go. And so, you know, it's easier said than done because you're in a packed venue, standing room.
Right.
And so in some ways, like, I just like turned around and it was like football all over again. It's like, I am assuming that Sherry's the running back behind me and I'm just going to make holes and we're going to run for a touchdown.
Yep.
Like, we
grabbed my hand and we went.
I grabbed your hand and we went.
Yep.
And we pushed through the crowd and we got her outside. But
we let Justin and Lacey know before we left. We were like, we're going to head to the back.
Yeah, going to head to the back. And then I
yeah.
texted them when we were outside for a little bit, kind of what was going on.
Yeah.
But I think like recognizing that sign in you was helpful. Because I knew the severity of it. I knew that it wasn't just like a little thing. You know what I mean? I knew this was like this was like a serious thing to you.
Yeah.
And so it was like instantly get out.
And I think that's the thing. Like when I ask for help, it's usually later than I should.
You should have asked for help earlier.
I should have tried to get out earlier when I felt my anxiety happening. I think that, in fact, when we got outside, I almost threw up.
Yep.
In the trash, like I leaned over the trash can because I'm going to throw up. I didn't, which I'm very thankful for. But
you know, Sherry, most people who go to concert venues in downtown Seattle throw up because of like heavy drug use or heavy alcohol.
Correct. Nope, mine was just anxiety. Yep. Cool.
Cool. I love you so much.
Oh gosh. So I have a Pinterest board called anxiety, and so I was which, you know, I've had it for years because I've dealt with anxiety for years.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of cruising through that after we talked about wanting to do this podcast, and you know, just kind of what things do I have pinned in there that spoke to me or whatever. So this is one of the things that I read out to Adam, and he was like, "Yep, you need to talk about that." So this says, anxiety isn't about being nervous or shy. It's your body existing in a physiological and mental state of emergency in the absence of danger. And that was the thing. I knew that I was not in danger.
Yep.
I knew that everybody in there had gone through security. There was, you know, I knew that
if something were to happen, I was going to protect you.
Yep. I know in my head that I was safe and that I was enjoying the music and that everybody was there just having a good time enjoying the music. But my body did not know that.
Yeah.
My body really was in this fight or flight mode. And I needed to
Flight.
I you need to flight. And well, it wasn't necessarily even a fight or flight. It was just in a flight mode. Just get me out. Yeah, and I don't know. It's frustrating to me, because I know. In fact, this is actually another thing that I pinned. This is one of the most frustrating things about having an anxiety disorder, knowing as you're freaking out that there's no reason to be freaked out, but lacking the ability to shut the emotion down. And that was it. I knew that there was nothing to be anxious about. I knew that I was okay. But my body did not know that. Mm-hmm. And it was full on freaking out.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. And I've talked about this before. And I don't know if this is like, it's not really an accurate description, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's a vibration. It's a buzzing in my body.
You said, that was one of the things that you said to me that I thought was really interesting. You said that you felt like your whole body was, because some people talk about like it feels like a heart attack. It feels like different things. Mm-hmm. You said it felt like this energy, this like buzzing in your whole body.
Yeah, my body is buzzing. And I don't know. I mean, I know what triggers it. It's usually crowds. It's usually noise.
Yep.
But man, my body just kind of starts to like shake, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like my hands kind of start shaking, yep. But like my whole body is just this vibration.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
I know.
And I don't know how to make it stop.
Yeah, I think.
No, I do know how to make it stop, but I have to like remove myself from the situation. I don't know how to make it not happen in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a way to do that. I think, mm-hmm. And I think that there's such a stigma around anxiety that, because when you look at it from the outside, it's like, it's just a little bit of noise in some people. Like, you're fine, push through it.
Right.
And I think that if you're with somebody who's experiencing that kind of attack, a couple things that I think are helpful, I know for me to remember. Number one are to like help get them their most immediate need. Like Sherry's most immediate need was outside and fresh air. Mm-hmm. Like that was literally like those were the two things that had to happen first. And the other thing is like, and this one's more difficult for me. It would not be helpful for me like, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong? How are you feeling right now? Are things okay? Like, how are you doing? What are you like? I actually need to be quiet mm-hmm. and just like help her regulate her breathing. And like, maybe we breathe together. Mm-hmm. But not, because what is needed is space, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Like that gap. And so don't try to fill that space with words or with your presence. Like,
talk to me. How are you feeling? What are you doing? That's just going to make it worse.
It's going to make it worse. And so it's like, I need to let Sherry sit on the chair or the ground or wherever in mm-hmm. fresh air. And like, we're just going to breathe together.
I drank a whole bottle of water.
Yep.
And I just breathed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And it worked. It did. It brought me down enough that I was able to go back in to the concert and with the earplugs, and then with standing near the back where I could feel the air, I made it through the rest of the concert. My anxiety did come back mm-hmm. a little bit. And I kind of like near the end of the dashboard's set, I started looking at the clock like on my phone.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you saw this, but on the coat check.
Oh, I saw exactly what you're going to say. The schedule of
the
things.
schedule
yep.
of like times. So Taylor was on from this time to this time. Boys Like Girls was on this time to this time. And Dashboard was this time to this time.
10:15.
10:15. And so at like I don't know, probably 9:45, I started looking at my phone.
Almost like counting down.
Like, okay, another half hour. And then at like 10:13, I was like, they're for sure not going to be done in 2 minutes. So maybe they'll be done by 10:30. And so like I was mentally like talking myself through like you can make it through.
Yeah. 17
more minutes is gonna be okay. But yeah, by the about not quite halfway through their, a little over halfway through their set, I was like, we need to.
It was coming back a little bit.
It was coming back, and that's where I just started breathing deeper and talking myself through like, okay, it's half an hour. We can make it through more and more half hour. You're love this music. You really want to hear these songs. Let's like, they're going to bring Boys Like Girls out and do Watch the Fire because they just released this song with them. Like, I want to be here for that. Like, just talking myself through, like, I want to hear the rest of this set. So
are you glad you stayed?
I am very glad that I stayed. It was a phenomenal concert. I even really did like the venue. I think that it was a great venue to see them in.
I agree.
And I'm really glad that we went, but I don't know how many more concerts are in my future.
So let's talk about that. It's one of the things that you can have tips on how to limit this in the future. There's things to do when it starts to kind of come up. Keeping in mind everybody is different. And I think that one of the things that is helpful is, and there are, my gosh, Google this, like things to do when anxiety attacks. There will be all sorts. There's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. There's so many different things that may help you. Find your things.
Find my thing. So I have tried the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. That's where you like find 5 things in the room that you can see, and 4 things in the room that you can hear, and 3 things in the room that you can
touch, smell, and then 2 that you can taste or smell, 1 that you can taste, something like that.
Something like that, and kind of focus on those things and like count yourself down. My anxiety, not always, but tends to be triggered by large crowds and by loud noise. So that specific method would not have done a whole lot for me.
Right.
Especially because, like I said earlier, when I'm having some kind of anxiety attack, and I agree, I think this was probably the worst one that I've had.
Yep.
Because I've never felt like I was going to pass out. I've never felt like I was going to throw up, and I felt all of that. And so this was probably the worst one that I've had. And so, looking for 5 things in this dark room where my vision was like closing in on itself, not helpful. Trying to find 4 things that I could hear when my entire body was thumping with the bass and the drums, not helpful.
You needed to not hear.
I needed to not hear. I needed to not see. I needed to sit down, and I needed to close my eyes, and I needed to breathe. And so that specific method would not have been very helpful for me. And again, because most of my anxiety comes from large crowds and loud noise, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method doesn't really do much for me. So what I do is fresh air and deep breaths and closing my eyes and mentally focusing on something that I don't have to actually see.
Was the grabbing your wrist, I actually didn't ask you this, but I wanted to, was the grabbing your wrist something to focus on heartbeat?
No.
Oh, interesting, because the way you were holding your wrist, it actually made me think that maybe you were trying to like feel your heartbeat to like regulate breath.
No, the only thing I could feel in my body was the buzz.
Jeez.
I couldn't feel my heartbeat at all.
Wow.
It was just buzzing. So no, grabbing my wrist was literally reminding myself to breathe, putting my hand over my breathe tattoo and reminding myself to breathe. That's what that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk like future concerts, future situations. Because first of all, you've never been a huge fan of live music, largely for this reason.
And I think that it's gotten worse as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
But I think it's always been a thing for me. I think that loud noises and big crowds have always caused some kind of reaction in me.
Do you feel like a venue where you had a seat would be better?
I think so.
Okay.
And I think that might have been part of it. My body was already exhausted
from standing.
From
the trip, really.
From the trip, lack of sleep. We stayed up real late every night with our friends, and we're up real early with our friends, and Friday, Saturday, and during the day of Sunday was a lot of go.
Yeah.
And so my body was already exhausted. I was already in a ton of pain. My EDS was really unhappy. And I think that probably exacerbated the anxiety because my body was already on edge. I was already in pain. And then we're just standing on this
concrete
cement.
floor. Yeah.
Right. And honestly, just standing on concrete hurts more than walking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had already been just standing for about an hour. And so I think that probably just made it all worse because I was already in pain.
So a concert with a seat, maybe a little bit better.
Possibly.
But I think that, I mean, gosh, for most of our marriage, I've gone to concerts with friends more than I've gone to concerts with you because of this kind of a thing.
Because of this. And I think that with a seat, you have natural spaces between people.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah.
You don't have people directly in front of you and directly behind you because there's usually, if there's seats, then there's like the spaces to walk.
Well, I think of concerts we've gone to at like wineries where we've had like a blanket out and we have like all of our space and we're on this
and
grass
it's open air.
and it's open air and you've done great.
Yep, and those have been great.
And so I think that the venue does play a role in the situation for you. Also, I think that if we go to a concert or if you ever went to a concert like this again, I think just going and knowing from the beginning, like when we get in, we're going to stand at the very back by the door.
We're going to stand in the back by the door where there's not so many people, and I'm going to get earplugs.
And you're going to get earplugs.
Yep, from the get-go. And I don't know, I mean, I think that it would help. I think also, there were the kind of breaks between bands.
Yep.
So they could kind of set up the stage for the next band. I think during those breaks, I just need to go outside.
Oh, that's really good.
And
get some fresh air.
Get some fresh air and kind of reset myself.
Super good.
So just kind of, go into it knowing I'm going to just need allowances. So, I do enjoy concerts. I love going and seeing bands that I love live. But it's just a physiological response that my body does not like.
It was funny. Today, I was talking to someone I work with, our friend named Allison. And Allison was like, hey, do you and Sherry want to go see, so the band's Taking Back Sunday and The Used are playing here like next weekend. She's like, do you guys want to go see Taking Back Sunday and The Used? I was like, well, yes, I do. I was like, however, interesting timing. Sherry, probably not so much.
Probably not going to do that.
Probably
I do
do
like
that.
Taking Back Sunday. I don't know who The Used is.
Yeah, you would like their stuff.
But nope, I'm thinking I'm out.
Do you think you'll ever go to a concert again?
I would like to. But again, I think we're just going to have to know the venue, know the exits, know.
Yeah. To be honest with you, even so at the venue we went to, again, we had never been to a show there. They had a VIP section that was kind of elevated and off to the left. And it seemed like in the VIP section, there was more space because it was elevated. People weren't as crowded to see. And honestly, even a little bit is like, oh, to go to concerts with Sherry means a couple things. Number one, maybe it's worth spending more to get her a better experience so that she can actually enjoy it, And then I think the other thing is just that, if you're with somebody and this happens, I would have given up that experience of seeing Dashboard in a second. If you were like, I need to get home. Been like, all right, well, great, load up, let's go.
I know. I knew that you would have, and I think that if I was truly like, nope, I need to go, then I would have said that.
Good, I'm glad.
I really, really wanted to see Dashboard.
Damn it.
Damn it. That's why we stayed an extra day. That's why we didn't fly home on Sunday, and that's why we were there. I mean, I wanted to see them.
Yep.
And I just needed some allowances to make it happen.
But you did it. You saw Dashboard.
But I did it. I saw Dashboard and I loved it.
And they were amazing.
They were so good. My friend and I that we saw outside, she and I were texting after the concert and we were just like, I don't know. He hasn't aged since 2001.
Chris Carrabba sold his soul to the devil for youth and that voice. I'm just convinced of it. I'm just 100% convinced of it.
He looks and sounds
I know.
exactly the same. And even the lead singer from Boys Like Girls, when they came out to sing Watch the Fire, because they did, I was so excited. He was even just like, how has he not aged since 2001? Yeah. He totally hasn't. It's amazing. But yeah, it was a really good concert, and I'm really glad that we went. But man, that anxiety attack was no bueno. So we were going to talk about the difference between anxiety and panic.
Yeah, I think this is important because there's a lot of similarities in them.
Yep.
But it can be like, well, what was that? Was that an anxiety attack? Was that a panic attack? But there are a few key things to look for.
Yeah.
And an anxiety attack tends to come on slowly. It builds. Whereas a panic attack is sort of instant. It's almost like flip of a switch. Like, oh my gosh, like it's here. It comes on really quickly. Anxiety attacks, some of the physical symptoms actually are very similar.
Yeah.
It can be that buzzing you talked about, like pain in chest, almost like this tension, like tightening of body, like a physical response. One of them, though, with panic attacks, there's like this feeling of impending doom, like dread kind of thing.
Right.
But anxiety attack, that isn't always the case.
Right.
So there are a lot of similarities between anxiety attacks and panic attacks. Sometimes you'll never know which it was. In this case, you do think that it was.
I think this is anxiety.
Yeah, I think you're right. Based on kind of the way that it came on, even the way that you made it go away, essentially. Any lasting, so like later that night, we get back to the Airbnb, we go to sleep the next day. And I guess here's what I'm thinking. So I've never had an anxiety attack. I think I've had panic attacks, but I've never had an anxiety attack. And I'm thinking about a migraine. When you get a migraine, you know how the day after you have a migraine, your brain feels numb?
Just fuzzy.
Fuzzy?
Yep.
Is there any post-anxiety attack things that you felt?
I think that the buzzing takes a few days to go away. I think that I still feel it a little bit.
Really?
Yep.
Even now?
Even now. So we're 2 days past, and I'm. It's certainly not anywhere near like what it was at the concert, but it hasn't completely gone away.
Okay.
Physical exhaustion.
Oh yeah. Well, your body goes through a lot.
My body went through a lot. And I think that some of the exhaustion was like you and I both slept for like 10 hours last night. We were both just exhausted from the trip.
Yep.
And I think that just the amount of stress that my body was under for that played into why I was so exhausted.
It makes sense.
So I was already exhausted from the trip itself, but then I think that just heightened it. So, yeah, I was exhausted last night.
Yeah.
And we both just crashed when we went to bed. So, yeah, I think that, I mean, I think this was the worst one that I've ever had. So it makes sense that it's taking longer to kind of get rid of stuff. I do have a headache. And it feels like a stress headache. It feels like, just kind of that pounding behind my eyeballs, that I get when I'm stressed. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's still physical responses that are occurring, but, certainly not as bad.
Well, I gotta say, I'm so impressed with you because I think like the way you handled it was proof of all of the work that you have done to know yourself and to know your body and to put language and voice to the way you react and respond to things. Like you just kind of like knew instantly what to do, how to respond. You didn't freak out and panic. You just kind of knew like, here's the things that I needed. So I think that seeing you respond that way in that moment was the result of a lot of self-work that you've done.
Yes.
And I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is actually another reason that I think that it was anxiety, not panic. One of the other differences between those is anxiety, you still have control. You feel like you're losing control, but you still have it. I think where panic attacks, like you just feel completely out of control. And so I think I've also had panic attacks where I can't form sentences. I can't I have a hard time actually drawing in a breath. My heart's pounding.
Yep.
I've had those too, but I think that the anxiety is one of the things that like I never felt out of control. I just felt like if I don't do something, I'm going to pass out.
Unfortunately,
I didn't want to do that in the middle of this crowd.
Fortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm very glad.
I'm very glad as well.
I'm very thankful that you also recognize the signs and were able to like get me out. I think that if I had had to fight my own way out, it would have made it worse.
I do want to say, if there's anybody listening who happened to be at the Dashboard Confessional concert that I ran over trying to get my wife to safety, I would like to humbly apologize.
So sorry.
Because I for sure snapped back into football mode and I just plowed through several people. And
You did. And I was so impressed with you because often, like when we're going through crowds, like I will lead the way because I will find every little like crack and hole and I'll just like weave my way through a crowd.
Yeah.
And because you'll kind of just like try to like step around people.
So I want to be
and,
kind of like,
not
oh, excuse me.
Yep.
Oh, gosh, just going to scooch on by.
And I'm not usually like that. I'm just like, excuse me. And we'll just like push through.
Yeah.
That's what you did. And I'm so thankful for that. Yeah. Like for a second, I was almost like, I feel like I should probably lead because we're never going to get out. And you were just like, whoop, we're going.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. I lowered my shoulder and just like didn't care about injury to those people.
Gots to go.
Gots to go.
And then, like we said, there were at least 2 other people that I saw and heard. I just needed to get out. You could see they were pale. They were like kind of shaking. They were just like, we need to get out.
Both of them, and I hadn't thought about this till now, both of them actually had friends with them helping them get out.
Yep.
Like doing the exact same thing we did.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I love that. And I'm glad that they had the wherewithal to say I need to get out and that their friends were like, okay, let's go.
Yep.
And from what I could tell, their friends, like neither of them were like, fine.
I'll miss the concert.
They were just like, okay, like let's. One of them had another friend leading her out, and one of them was just taking the lead and just grabbed her friend's hand and was like, I got to get out.
Yep.
But her friend just went, and so like I appreciate that. I'm glad that they had also people in their lives. I'm sure that there were other people in that crowd that didn't, and probably just tried to fight through it.
Ugh.
And like I said at the beginning, what I have noticed, at least for myself, that when I just try to like push through, and tell my body to like sit down and shut up, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
It rackets the anxiety up higher, and it makes it worse. And so if I don't listen to my body, and I mean, again, like growing up, I think that I've always had this, but it hasn't been this bad. It's certainly gotten worse as I've gotten older, but I also didn't think that I don't think that I had the words for it, and I don't think that I had the awareness in my body to recognize what was happening.
Yep.
And so I did just try to push through. And I think that, there were a lot of concerts that I went to the bathroom and stayed in there for 20 minutes. Because it was quieter and it was, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing, was needing to get out of that space. But that's exactly what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And I would just be like, I just need to go to the bathroom. And then I would just go and sit on the toilet for like 20 minutes and just breathe. And, there's a lot of those kinds of concerts where I would just go out into like the lobby of wherever we were at and just breathe and just like center myself, and then I'd go back in.
Yep.
And I don't think that I realized that's what I was doing.
It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
But you did it.
But I did it.
And you got to see Dashboard.
I got to see Dashboard.
Damn it.
It was so good. Damn it. I know. That's literally what I said. I was like, we're here to see Dashboard. Damn it. I'm going to see them.
And you did.
And I did. Boy, that was a trip though.
It was a trip. And I think that it's important to remember a couple things just in my mind as we were talking about this. Maybe you're at a place where you don't have the language. Maybe even you're in a place or you've been raised in, or you find yourself in a situation where sometimes anxiety, it can almost be like, I don't want to admit that I have that, or that sounds weak, or that sounds like I don't want to ruin my friend's experience. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to tough through it. But I think it's really important that it's okay to care for yourself. Yeah. And it's okay to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you are with people who truly love you, they will never be upset at you taking care of yourself. And I think that's really, really important. Yep. That here's the thing. Would I have been bummed if we would have had to leave? Yes, of course.
Me too.
But here's the thing. Sherry is 5 bajillion times more important than seeing Dashboard Confessional in concert.
Right.
And so, be with people who will care for you as you care for yourself. Yep. That's really important.
Yep.
And honestly, I'm even thinking about this now. If you're going to an event or a concert where this may be a situation for you, it's honestly probably even a good conversation before.
Yeah.
To have with friends going, it's like, hey, just, in these environments, like sometimes I struggle with anxiety and so I may have to like step out, or I may have to stand at the back when we're in there. Like, I don't want that to affect your guys' fun. So go forward, do whatever you need to do to enjoy this. But like, just know this is kind of something I may deal with in this space.
Yep.
And honestly, even for us, I wish we would have thought of that ahead of this.
Yeah.
But again,
I mean, I think that, Justin and Lacey are aware of my anxiety. Like,
Sure.
we've had this discussion before. And so I don't think that they were shocked. We never actually talked about it with them, but I don't think that they were like, what's happening? I don't know what's going on. I think they knew.
Oh, totally.
That, and they were okay. They stayed in there and listened to the rest of Boys Like Girls. But as soon as we went back in, we texted them and just said, we're going to stand near their back. And they immediately came back and stood with us, which they didn't have to do.
No, not at all.
I would have been perfectly fine. But even Lacey was like, yeah, it was
a lot.
It was a lot being right in the middle of that crowd.
Yeah.
So, I think that they were fine with it. And I think they would have been fine if we'd been like, hey, we're going to go. We'll come back and pick you up.
Oh, 100% they would have been.
I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to see Dashboard.
Damn it.
Damn it.
And so I think that like if you're in a situation where
Yeah.
maybe you don't have words for this, do kind of some self work to identify that.
Yeah.
Look, figure out what those triggers are for you. Figure out the things that really, when your body gets buzzing, like Sherry said, learn yourself really well so you recognize when something is coming on, so that you know the things you can do to regulate that.
Yep. And again, it's going to be different for everybody.
Absolutely.
It maybe the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is exactly what you need, and that's what helps you, and that's great. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's something else that's going to help you, and that's great too. But find what it is that's going to help you. Recognize the signs of when it's coming on. Don't maybe let it get as far as I did. And, if possible, try to step back.
Why do you think you let it get as far?
Because I was enjoying the concert. I wanted to hear them.
Yeah.
I was actually enjoying the music. They were high energy. They were a lot of fun. They were all over the stage.
You didn't want to miss out.
I didn't want to miss out.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, there was a part of me that's just like, it's going to be fine. Like, you are not in any danger, telling my body, sit down and shut up. You're going to be fine. And my body was like, you can't tell me what to do. And so.
But body keeps the score.
Yeah, I know. So I do have one more thing I wanted to read.
Okay.
Because I just feel like it is a very accurate description of what is happening in your body. Having an anxiety disorder is like that moment where your chair almost tips or you miss a step going down the stairs, but it never stops. So, just like that gasp, that kind of like, I'm falling. It just doesn't go away. It's just that like moment of, constant.
Well, I'm proud of you for wanting to
stressful.
I'm proud of you for wanting to share, because I think that, again, hopefully it gives language to maybe people who don't have that currently.
Yep.
So if you're
because I didn't for a long time.
That's what I was just gonna say. So if you're listening and you're kind of where Sherry was for a good part of her life, like, you can learn yourself and kind of understand what you need when the situation strikes.
Yep. And again, like I just didn't have the words for it, and I think that I didn't recognize what was happening in my body. But even looking back, growing up, we went to a lot of concerts, and like through high school and college, went to a lot of concerts, and since we've been married, we've actually been to a lot of concerts, and the outdoor ones, I tend to not have an issue.
Very interesting.
And I think it's because usually outdoor concerts tend to be a little less crowded.
Yeah.
There's a little more space to kind of spread out and kind of have our own space. There's automatically that fresh air. I'm able to like take deep breaths. And so outdoor concerts, I feel like, tend to be a little bit better. It also, because you're outdoors, it's not quite as loud. Because it doesn't have the walls to bounce off of. So maybe that's just kind of the key. But, growing up, I did go to a lot of indoor concerts, and, at first I was just like, but they never bothered me before. But then, I did start thinking like, man, almost every concert I would have to step out into the lobby, or I would have to go and sit in the bathroom for a little bit, or like, I don't know that I'm sure that there were some concerts that I didn't, but I think for the most part, that's what I would do. And I didn't realize that that's what my body was going through.
Gosh.
I just knew that I needed to kind of get out and breathe for a minute. So I did.
Wait a second. So growing up in the Midwest, going to all the Christian concerts, are you telling me that anxiety attacks, the mental health issues can happen at a Newsboys concert?
They sure can.
Hold on. Are you telling me that those kind of things
DC
can happen
Talk,
at DC
Jennifer
Talk
Knapp.
and Stephen Curtis Chapman?
Yep.
Amazing.
Michael W. Smith.
It's
Yep.
almost like this is physical and mental, not only just spiritual.
Correct.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Snarky little comment to end the podcast, you guys. But
Yep.
I really am so proud of you. Watching you navigate that really was, to me, it was the result of so much work that you've done.
Thank you.
And it was so good to see.
Yeah.
I will still probably be bringing lots of friends to other concerts.
That's fine.
And I probably just will not ask you to go see Taking Back Sunday in the Used here in
You can
next
go
week.
see that and have so much fun.
Sherry's just like literally no
And
desire.
here's the thing, like, because I know this about myself, like Dashboard, I knew as soon as we booked the tickets that it was probably going to be an issue for me. But it's freaking Dashboard Confessional.
Yeah.
Like, we've loved them since 2003, probably.
Yeah.
We have since purchased their first album, which came out in 2001.
Yep.
But I didn't know who they were then. But gosh, 21 years. Almost 22 years. I've been listening to this band.
I know.
Freaking love them. Like, I wanted to go see them. It's the same with Taylor. Like, if we can ever get tickets again to a Taylor concert, I'm probably going to want to go.
It's funny. I was actually going to ask you that. If we got Eras tour tickets, would you go?
I would go, but we would have to probably pick our seats kind of near the back. We would, in fact, I was trying to think, we have been to 2 Taylor concerts.
Yep.
One in the Tacoma Dome. And then one in what is now
Lumen Field, where the Seahawks play. Yep.
I'm trying to think if I needed to leave those.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember, but I do feel like in between like the openers, we did
walk around.
We
Yeah,
did get out of like where our seats were. Yep. and move.
And Lumen Field, where we saw Taylor. Sorry, long podcast. I know, guys.
Sorry.
Lumen Field, where we saw Taylor. It's an open air stadium.
Yeah.
The Tacoma Dome was closed, but we were quite a ways away.
Yep.
Lumen Field, we were actually very close.
It was a smaller crowd. I mean, it was still a big crowd.
Tacoma Dome, I think, was 20,000 in that ballpark. Lumen Field, I think, was probably 68,000. And Lumen Field, we were very close, just, a few rows from the stage.
Yeah.
But open air.
And we did walk around after, like in between the sets. It was like Vance Joy and, was it?
Shawn Mendes. No. Wait.
In 1989, I think that it was.
Where was Ed Sheeran?
I think that was Red.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because he came out and sang the song that's on Red.
Oh, we're so old.
I know. We really are. But yeah, between sets, I do remember walking around and like getting out from where we were seated.
We're going to end this podcast, and Sherry's going to sing a medley of her favorite Dashboard confessional songs. No? Is that not how we're going to end this podcast?
No.
No? Did I just cause you anxiety?
It kind of did.
I love you. Okay. Breathe. I love you so much. I'm glad you got your breathe tattoo. I think it looks awesome, and I think it's an important reminder.
Yeah,
not
me
just
too.
now, but forever.
Forever. Because I think this is something I've always dealt with, and I think it's something I'm going to continue to deal with.
You're kicking its ass.
Well,
kicking anxiety's ass since...
It's kind of kicking mine, but I'm...
Fighting back nobly.
I'm fighting back.
Fighting back valiantly. Fighting back against anxiety valiantly since 2024. All right, friends, here's what I want to know. I want to hear from you on this topic. So the way you do that is you go over to YouTube, you type in LeggLife Podcast. Even if you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, one of the other platforms, Amazon Music, I want you to go over to YouTube, type in LeggLife Podcast, find this When Anxiety Attacks episode, and leave a comment on the YouTube video. Is anxiety something you deal with? What are the things that help you when anxiety attacks? Because again,
do you have like a go-to method? Because I'm always open to learning new things.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to
new coping mechanisms.
or is this a topic that like you're still learning to put voice to? You know, it can even be a scary thing to simply acknowledge and say the words, I have anxiety. Like
Yeah.
just the admission of that can even be hard. But I think that is an important first step to say that, like, I have this, because then once you understand that that's something you have, then you can start to understand ways to deal with and process that.
Yep. And there was a time in my life where I was on medication
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
I'm not currently, but
Something you're considering?
something I would consider if these attacks keep occurring.
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
grow in frequency. The medication that I was on really seemed to help when I was on it. So, but yeah, that's something you have to get through a doctor.
Yep.
So
No stigma around this stuff.
no stigma at all.
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna be honest about it, and we're gonna all
Yep.
grow through this and get through it together.
Yep. I don't think there's anything wrong with being on a medication for it if that's what helps. I don't think there's anything wrong with not being on medication for it if you have other coping mechanisms.
I agree.
But find out what works for you and do it. Yep.
So important.
Yep.
Friends, we love you so much. We appreciate you guys listening to this conversation about this topic. Again, it was one of those things that it happened, and then as we've been processing it in the last couple days since it happened, just kind of wanting to share a little bit more in the hopes that somebody out there may benefit from this.
Yeah.
In the hopes that maybe it gives language to something that doesn't currently have that.
Yep.
Again, shout out to the staff at the Showbox Sodo in Seattle.
They were all incredible.
I'm so impressed. Exceeded every expectation. My goodness, what an experience, though.
Yeah.
You got to see Dashboard.
I got to see Dashboard. I almost cried. When
Damn
they
it.
came out.
Got to see Dashboard, damn it. All right, friends, we love you so much. Thanks for being a part of our LeggLife community, and we will see you on the next LeggLife podcast. Bye.
Bye.